Okay, so welcome to the Mir office hours for the 20th of March 2025. There were no actions from the previous meeting, apart from some feedback, which will probably be covered separately. So let's move right on with the Mir 2.20 2.20 release, which was driven by a number of factors, but the most interesting parts of that were the integration with LXQt and with Budgie, and some work with the Lomiri team, who's represented here by Alfred.
My pet peeve in here is focus stealing prevention. I really dislike apps stealing my focus, so you can enable it on I think Miro Shell automatically, right? Well, I mean, it's built into Miro Shell, but you can enable it in Miriway as well by now.
That's true.
And so it will force some of your apps to just stay behind if they don't activate, but that warrants a bug on the app to actually start using XDG activation.
Okay. So I've just seen a note from Raphael that he needs to leave shortly. So perhaps we should skip forward into his item on the agenda, which is the mirror hall.
Yeah, no, guys, I'm really sorry for my timing. It's just that this week I'm like hopping between work stuff, and it's like, yeah, I have to leave at 50. So that's like that. Sorry.
That's okay. Just go for it.
Sure. So regarding Mirror Hall, basically right now the way it works is that so it's this app that works bidirectionally as a virtual peer-to-peer network video streaming solution. So basically, one has on the mirroring side, like on the server side, it at the moment it does a bunch of non-standard calls via dbus to Matter, to gnomes Matter, and tries to create a virtual sync first of all, and then to forward it, like to record it, and once it's recorded, then the APIs are more standard. One can just get the pipewire stream and encode it and do everything and send it over. And the receiver side is just a video player, basically. It's just a network video player, so that is pretty boring. So yeah, right now it only works on Matter because there was no standard API on the one hand, and some DEs that like I looked into KWin, but it was not really supported last year, and so on. So yeah, basically what we discussed with Michel.
Yep.
Is that correct? At FOSDEM was that it would of course make sense to have this not as a GNOME thing, but more upstream than first of all. So on my end, my intention very slowly was to split up the app component from the backend component, because I think it would be very nice, very handy to have a library that just creates virtual displays on Linux, and instead of having everything packaged in an app that maybe some people don't really care much about. And to that end, yeah, basically the initial thought was, okay, every DE has a bunch of non-standard dbus calls, so what we will do is creating a library that just guesses your desktop, tries by looking in dbus, looking what is available, just tries to fetch a virtual display. But of course, that is not a very mature approach. There's not a very scalable approach. And so, yeah, we thought of, firstly, like as a first step, of course, integrating with more desktop that actually expose endpoints. And my question then was like, I've heard from Michel that you actually do have some kind of experimental debug endpoints for that. So I wanted to ask how it works. And secondly, maybe in the future getting to a stage where this is more standardized as a Wayland extension, and from there on having a more stable approach. But for now, yeah, my question was mostly like, how would this work in Mir?
So in Mir, like creating the virtual screen right now is something that we can only do on startup, simply because we didn't come up with a way to have a dynamic thing. So I think like as we discussed, I think the best thing would be to actually come up with a protocol extension that Wayland protocol extension that other compositors could implement, right? I wouldn't even go into like Matter is doing this, like WL Roots is doing something else, and Mir is doing something else. Again, I think just going for this is a proposal for a protocol extension that allows clients to request virtual displays or manage virtual displays and set them up. I think it would be the right thing. And then you have everything else in place already, because image capture source is a standardized extension for image capture, and then source I think is for selecting it, but there's a second protocol for actually like doing the thing to capture the image itself, right? And I think if we had that protocol, like there's not a whole lot of support here, but that will come soon, because it's a revision of a more standard or of a less standardized protocol before, and something that will soon be fixed, I think. And if it was another thing, like if your stuff drove the adoption of these protocols as well, then only so much better, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that would be, yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that's definitely the better way to go. Yeah, so having a basically on-demand creation of secondary sinks and yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, these two are actually like maybe even like image capture source. You could think of being that, because this is what allow you to actually kind of negotiate with the compositor what is available as a capture source, right? So maybe an extension to this protocol even, right? Where rather than just allowing you to select from, like it has screens and it can capture an output, it can capture a top level, but it could also allow you to capture a virtual display, and maybe it's just a revision on this protocol, right?
That would be interesting. Yeah, yeah, that would be a nice way indeed. I haven't looked into the image capture much yet, but looks promising.
So I will drop a link here and also drop it in the notes for reference. But I think that would be a good direction.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Yeah, I do think that the creation and configuration of a virtual display is probably complex enough that it deserves its own protocol.
And also maybe because it's not like you don't necessarily want to have the same thing have to stream from it as well, right? So maybe creating a virtual display is one thing, but then something else is actually what's capturing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving back, there was also a Miriway release in February, also associated with the work that was being done with LXQt and Budgie, which just added some features that were useful in that context and a bug fix. And that's all available, released now as the Miriway Snap, or as upstream in Fedora Rawhide, I believe. And soon
it's also 42.
It's also in 42. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So go try that out.
Any highlights of the new release?
It's part of the Fedora LXQt Wayland preview.
Right, but in terms of what's special about the release other than just getting on top of Mir 220?
It gets a sensible cursor theme. It allows the compositor or the desktop environment to decide whether it wants the decorations to be server side or client side. And one of the things that I wanted from it was it's possible to pull application windows into always on top so that they remain their switching workspaces.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Matt might want to say something about Miracle.
Sure. I didn't add it to the thing because I forgot to. But I put out version 0.5 yesterday, and I have some things to fix for Neil, but other than that, it looks pretty solid. One of the cool things I added was like the ability to fade out surfaces, which we didn't really have before. So that took a little bit of messing around with Mir to get working. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so ability to like drag containers around in the grid, the ability to move containers with the cursor, mini trees floating over the grid. So you can have containers inside containers, but they're logically a floating window together, which is kind of cool. And then some more i3 Sway stuff. So yeah, go check it out if you want to give it a try. I have to release the packages everywhere, but I'll do that sometime this week.
Cool. Okay, so the next thing we wanted to get some input on was what do people want to be in the next cycle of Mir development. One of the things that comes up a bit is Wayland extensions. So I've just added underneath a list of recent asks, or not so recent asks, but ones that are still outstanding. I discovered that on the 2504 Ubuntu pre-release, GDK applications will crash because they don't believe that WR Compositor can still be at version 4. So they're fine until you move a mouse over them and then they die. But we really ought to be keeping up with the times because V6 is now out. Protocol extension for switching workspaces. Some of the potential downstreams are using that protocol, and we could reasonably support it. As mentioned earlier, the image copy and capture stuff. There's now a more standard protocol than the one we currently have implemented. It shouldn't be difficult to support the newer protocols in addition, and that would make it possible to use with a lot more client side. There's a comment about foreign unstable. I'm not sure what that would bring us. Similarly, the portal support, global menu support, and the DRM sync object. Anyone feel strongly about any of these? Well, I will admit to feeling strongly that we really didn't ought to crash GDK applications in the next Ubuntu release, so we should probably deal with that one.
So I will just add that like whether anybody here pushes for any of those or not is just one way to push us to go there. But obviously we ourselves just will decide on some of these to pick it up, and I think that's definitely appropriate. One other thing that I would like to mention is when discussing the portal support, we landed on the decision, or kind of the side of the discussion, that we don't want portal support directly in Mir, but rather have proxies where appropriate. So like we use for screen sharing right now, we use the WLR proxy, WLR desktop portal proxy, because that allows both Wayland clients and portal clients to work with over the same story, and then not having a specific implementation of relatively specific implementation of portals that you may not want everywhere. You may not have dbus everywhere, and whatnot. So our preference would be to actually have an intermediary and focus on Wayland protocol extensions where appropriate, basically.
Okay, Neil, you've got your hand up.
Right. So, two things here. The X workspace protocol is basically the only protocol missing for Budgie to start looking at Mir as an opportunity to build either a new compositor or to leverage Miriway or any of these other things. Because right now, if you use libxfc for windowing based things in there, they will either A, crash because apparently no one does error handling, or B, be broken in a way that makes it so you look like it looks like it's not functional. So there's no graceful failure, even in the cases where it doesn't crash. So like not having X workspace is a real problem. The other aspect is the X image copy capture and X image capture source. As of right now, the lack of a compositor implementing it is the blocker for Budgie looking at developing, basically spearheading a Wayland an XDP implementation that can be cross-desktop. Because without something that uses it, it is very, very hard to write a portal that uses those protocols. And to the best of my knowledge, there are 0 implementations of any real compositors to actually use this right now. WL Roots, I think, recently merged their implementation, but it is unreleased. And who knows when the new one will be released and then used by compositor implementations. Yeah. So it would be super neato if we could have it in the next Mir release at some point, so that this is something that we can actually start picking up as a community project to build a cross-desktop XDP implementation that doesn't suck.
Okay. So that suggests that I've listed them in something appropriate to the right order.
Yes.
I just have one kind of beef with X workspace not being there. Like, yes, we should have it. That said, it's an extension. So XFCE people, please, you should fix that, because handle your errors, right? I think because we'll likely implement it in Mir, but anybody can disable that because they don't use workspaces. Maybe your compositor doesn't have a way to, or a reason to use workspaces, and crashing because of that is probably, or like breaking because of that is probably the wrong thing to do.
Oh, I agree for sure. This is not a critique on that. This for sure, I agree with you. It probably shouldn't be crashing or doing like bad error handling just in general when the protocol does not exist. Yeah. But I suspect a big part of the problem here is that without any real implementations of these protocols, it is actually very hard to get this right.
At least one thing that's going to be very helpful, I think, in the Mir case, because you can so easily just disable the protocol, you can have it working and then you disable it and then it's not working. So you can actually see that's where the problem is there.
For sure. I've appreciated it in testing. It is very nice to be able to turn things off and on at a whim.
Yeah.
Okay. But anything else that people were looking for Mir to deliver in the next cycle?
Customizable decorations. Or is it this cycle?
I thought you were doing that this cycle.
It's happening, but
this okay.
it's happening, but it's kind of on the back burner to some extent.
Yeah.
But it will be there, yeah.
The sync
Cool.
objects protocol is important because of a whole bunch of infrastructure starting to be built around it that is now hard requiring it. For example, the new NVIDIA driver stuff hard requires this now, which is frustrating. It is also hard required for stuff with the for a lot of the new ARM graphics drivers. They're built on KMSRO, and they also now hard require explicit sync and things like that.
So we have the Mir part of supporting explicit sync in PR right now, and building the sync objects, the ARM sync object protocol over that is going to be relatively simple. Well, okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but at least it's possible. Let's just say.
Cool. Yeah. It's one of the things that I want to eventually start testing to see if, as we have Mir-based stuff in Fedora, evaluating whether I should bring one of these over to be a preview in Fedora Sahi Remix as well. Because it is not ready for that right now, but it is something I would like to explore within the next 2 cycles of Fedora development.
Okay. One other thing that we've kind of been playing with in the back of our heads is global shortcut support. And I know this is there is no protocol extension for this right now. There is a portal that people mostly have focused on. What are people's thoughts on this?
Budgie has a draft protocol that can be used to bridge to a portal. It is currently somewhat incomplete. I could clean it up and then shop it with you guys and see whether there's anything else that needs to be filled out, and then propose it if that's an angle we want to go. Because it was actually one of the first things that we were trying to figure out, from how do we do a portal and how do we handle this internally? How do we make this actually work in a modular, interoperable fashion? And so it is actually the first custom protocol Budgie has been developing, which is handling global shortcuts. So if you'd like me to bring that, clean that up and shop it to you guys, and we can see if we can come up with a decent proposal, then I can do that.
I think it would be interesting to see feedback on the Wayland protocols repo, simply because I'm not 100% convinced that this is a protocol extension for does this fit with Wayland, right?
Yeah.
And on the one hand, it feels like maybe not, but on the other, we have the IPC, so rather than just going over and using some other IPC, maybe we could focus on this one and have it supported. And again, having a common implementation of the portal side of it could allow us to, so you're a compositor that supports this. For free, you get this other part of the story, right?
Right. Well, that's kind of that's the way I've been thinking about it from the global shortcuts protocol thing, is that because your 2 options without this are either to implement a custom IPC, which is what GNOME does, or you link it directly to the compositor, which is what KDE does. So, and neither of those approaches are great if you're trying to produce, a modular cross-desktop type tooling, because people don't like that, is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah. Another point I'd add, if you are if you're actually experimenting with the Wayland protocol route, Mir has a facility to add your own downstream Wayland extensions. So that would make Miriway quite an easy playground for adding a experimental version of the protocol without trying to push it too far into any of the mainstream repositories.
Yeah, I would like to make sure I have good feedback from you guys before we propose it to WP, because I don't feel like being hit with a hammer without getting poked with a stick a few times first.
Yeah. Yeah, the same goes for Miracle, of course. That could also use the bespoke Wayland protocols facilities from Mir to implement something along these lines, just to get a bit of implementation experience.
Yeah, and I think, and this might actually also make sense for me to start exposing the currently empty but kind of prepped Wayland protocol cross-desktop XDP implementation project place, and start maybe also using that as the way to integrate a client and a non-trivial client and make things show up and do things and whatever. Yeah, the idea, I know I talked to Evan Maddock from the Budgie project. The idea was we would start doing this as soon as the X image capture protocols were implemented in Mir, because once those are there, we can actually start writing this. And this also allows us to start moving forward on things like the global shortcuts stuff and a bunch of other things that we need to start caring about as we work towards Budgie 11.
Yep. Nice. Simon, you've got your hand up.
Hi, so I just have a really quick, I guess, more general points here. I know I noted this asynchronously. I wanted to kind of talk about briefly, Lubuntu, we've wanted to switch to Mir for a couple of cycles now. Obviously, some of the technical bits really haven't been there. I'm looking at Mir and Debian right now, and we just got 2.20 in Debian unstable. Should migrate by the time Debian Trixie comes out, so that should be good. Really, the main blocker was A, getting Mir to build on a new current version, B, getting Miriway to build and install successfully, and then C, actually getting it to work in a VM. And that last step is where I'm actually at right now. I'm looking to switch all of the Lubuntu images, etc., to Mir at the very, very start of this upcoming Ubuntu cycle. And then I'll make a final go, no go call right before feature freeze, as if we're actually going to be shipping Mir as the default display server there. So it's from my perspective, I just wanted to sort of know if there's any homework you'd like to give me, or if there's any specific resources that would help me, that would be great. If not, I'm going to probably find out a lot in the next coming months, just as I dig really, really deep into things here.
So, Simon, I have essentially written out and documented how we did the integration for Fedora LexQt. So I'm just going to say, just crib all of that, because you're just going to save yourself so much pain and agony having to start from what we did.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so it's documented in the Fedora LXQt 2.1 change proposal, because as part of it, we documented that we were switching to Wayland by default. We have all the things in place. And right now, technically, the only reason that Miriway is not working is because another package pretends to be YAML CPP and it's causing everything to crash. But apparently someone just fixed that this morning, and I just submitted it to land into the repo so that we can have these unbroken. But yeah, this is also apparently why the Miracle spin is also failing, which is great, because Traffic Server was pretending to provide YAML CPP and it doesn't. Yay! These are fun times indeed. But yes, Simon, everything is actually documented. If you need further assistance on figuring out what we did, feel free to reach out to me. There's also a pile of pull requests at LXQt upstream that are basically stuck because there is no Miriway in Arch. And apparently everybody's attempts to run Miriway on Arch have resulted in non-functioning Miriway, which confuses me because it's not that hard to get it to run. But that has been a problem. So I am definitely going to need your help to unblock that, because I am very unhappy about carrying around very large patch sets in LXQt for this.
I would say, and this is just sort of an estimate on what's going to happen here. We're going to get to the beginning of Q cycle. I'm going to look at all of these patches. I'm going to give my +2 upstream, and I'm going to merge some of them and poke on the rest of them. I have a very, very good feeling we're going to get the vast majority of this merged as soon as I look at it, simply because I can merge stuff upstream there. And if my +1 counts, I'm sure theirs do too, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, so also OpenSUSE is going to be adopting Miriway as the default compositor for their LXQt deployment as well. We are sharing, so all three of us, we intend to share the same configuration. So Sean Dunn, who does the LXQt stuff in OpenSUSE, has packaged up Mir, has packaged up Miriway, has fought with OpenSUSE's weird packaging of libwayland, and has managed to get everything to work. And so now he is also shipping the same patches that I made for Fedora, and he has a functioning LXQt Wayland using Mir.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Kind of going back to the asks, and I think this is something that, like, my personal, I think that we have to fix, and that means kind of working across the stack, is an Alt+Tab switcher. Because yes, we have Alt+Tab switching, which breaks and is generally a nightmare to maintain within Mir, but it's non-visual, and then it doesn't necessarily behave exactly like what you would see. And I think we've discussed this in the past, like what is missing for an actual, again, cross-desktop switcher to be possible. And I think like we have something to do in Mir. But there's also not really a good protocol out there yet. So some like to be able to do this, right? So to just have a piece of UI that will show up on Alt+Tab as a global shortcutty kind of thing that isn't kind of very specific to this use case, I think is the thing that is working. And I think the global shortcut protocol that we were talking about is going to be the thing that we should also think about here to be able to support this, right? Because between layer shell and XDG foreign and the global shortcut protocol, this should be possible, right? So
yes, it should. Well, there's a way to go.
He's working very hard here, but yes. So what is this global menu support thing? Because that one I don't know anything about.
yeah, go. That seems to be using by KD, and Poestis may be interested, but it's like it's not very, like, it's a draft from 1 year ago, and nothing changed for a while. It's not very active, right?
Yeah, it just came up on my trawl of requests, so I thought I'd see what interest there was here.
There's definitely interest from the KD side to standardize this because Plasma can't get GTK applications to integrate without a standard protocol. So this is the main driver for KD, like, really trying to get this to be a standardized interface because GTK refuses to support it otherwise. And I am a user of the global menu, so I would really much like it to work. So
Okay.
So we can tackle that.
Okay. Alfred, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to report in on the Lomiri side of things. And I'm happy to report that with the Lomiri PPA that we provide as part of a little testing ground, so to say, we have Mir 2.20 building and Qt building against that, linking against that, and Lomiri running with that. And we had to tackle a few issues in the meantime. For example, like two components, mainly Qt and Mir, were trying to provide the same protocol, which failed horribly. So we disabled ours and ran with the one in Mir itself. And we right now have a pretty well working system with Lomiri running on top of Ubuntu 24.04 on the desktop, so no UBports repositories added. And it's running with the latest Mir, which we are known for not providing the latest Mir in Ubuntu Touch itself. So we are pretty well, I'm pretty sure that we're in a good spot right now to provide something that is getting closer and closer to a usable desktop. It's not finished by far, so the main issue right now is that drag and drop and something else are just breaking clients right now. We have to figure out what's going on there. But most issues that are related to crashers are gone. At least we haven't uncovered any new. And that is also something that I'm very proud of. So we were like little worker bees. We were working like pretty hard for a week and trying to get everything working properly. And came to fruition.
Congratulations.
It's a milestone for us as well, and we're glad that we're able to help.
Definitely.
Does that mean that somebody can finally package Lomiri for Fedora?
If you're feel up to it.
I wonder who would.
I mean, I'm not up to it. I'm stretched thin enough as it is, but like someone else should.
Yeah, as long as you still provide Qt 5 packages, we're still at the point where we're upgrading against Qt 6. We have the Lomiri UI toolkit building. We even have our browser packaged as a click with every dependency just shipped inside of the click package. So all the Qt 6 type of things that you expect are there. G settings, Qt, and a bunch of other libraries are already built and provided against Qt 6, but we don't ship them in the root affairs by default on Ubuntu Touch. But storage requirements are not much of an issue on the desktop, so we might as well just ship it in the PPA maybe soonish, someday.
We still have Qt 5 in Fedora. It is not unsupported, so you can make new packages that link against it. It's fine.
Okay.
But Qt Wayland is not very nice on Qt 5 compared to Qt 6. So,
right.
So, like, you really want to probably ramp up that let's go to Qt 6 stuff.
Yeah, we are at the point where we're also upgrading, again, to Mir 2.x on the Android side of things. So the Mir Android 2 platform that we have is getting some help by Marius, who has been working on trying to make it work on Mir 2.x in the first place. So it renders, it puts stuff on the screen. I'm not sure how stable it is, but it is something. And maybe, just maybe after that, or maybe in parallel, we'll be able to do the Qt 6 upgrade as well. But the clients shouldn't matter. The Qt 6 clients should work just as well, minus automatic scaling, but that's for another day.
Sure. You're making progress. That's the important part.
Hooray.
Yeah. Quite visible progress.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our time, but any other business?
If it's not Wayland protocols, what else would you like to see in Mir in 2504?
I would like to see the hook interface for decorations and stuff, like being able to get that in place, not just because Miracle needs it, because pretty much every desktop will want to have a way to define how those are themed. And rather than making you all suffer by implementing every theming mechanism known to man, you probably will want to take the Quinn approach of providing an interface for people to plug in their own theme engines.
In progress.
Yeah, it's something we've been working on over the last, well, during this cycle, and we are most of the way there. It just didn't ship in 220.
That's okay. 221 is what, like next summer, this summer or something.
It's when we choose.
Sure, even better.
We don't have a strict release cadence, but I think like if and when we get something like this in and people are waiting on it, then we can just release whenever that's ready, right? Or whatever.
Okay. One more call for any other business. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Nice. It was nice to have you all here. The biggest one yet. Cheers. Let me stop the recording. Where is it? Oh, here. Sorry, I lost it. No.